Hi students, last class we discussed about research problem and the sources of research problem. So we discussed regarding the definition and the sources, different sources, how you can identify a research problem. And in this video we will see in detail about the criteria of a good research problem and how to formulate a research problem statement. We will move on to the video. So what are the criteria for selecting a good research problem? So when you select a research problem, you have to see whether all these criteria have been met to make it as a good research problem. So if you have a research problem statement in your hand, it will be of so helpful. So you can keep one research problem and see whether the criteria have been met by the research problem statement. So the first important criteria is significance to nursing profession. As we are in nursing field, you should see whether research what you do is it according to your discipline. Like if you are an engineering student, you should make sure that you are doing a research on something related to engineering. So same like that, as we are doing nursing, so we should make sure whether the research problem what we have selected is applicable for the nursing profession. So a problem which a researcher is selecting should have significance to nursing profession, or it will not serve of any purpose. Okay, so you should make sure that the topic what you are selecting for your research, whether it is related to your nursing profession. And the next, here you can see that research problem can be considered significant for nursing profession if it fulfills the following criteria. Like it should be related to nursing profession, patients, nurses and healthcare, so that it can be of some benefit to your studies. And the next criteria is original. You should make sure the research problem what you are taking in your area of study, it should be a new one. So maybe something which is done in another part of the country or the state or other district is fine, but you have to make sure whether that research is new for your area. So therefore it is key responsibility of a researcher that innovative knowledge is used for selecting a research problem, so that this is not something copied from the others' work. So the next one is feasible. Feasibility is an essential consideration of any research project, because there are under feasibility there are few points which comes. You should make sure whether it is feasible of time, cost, resources, everything. So we will see under feasibility what all the things comes under, or the first one is time. So you should know the time period what you're going to do for your or take for your research. For example, in BSc nursing, according to the Kohas University, it is 2 weeks. So if the project work is for 2 weeks and your research should be limited to the 2 weeks, so you should make sure that the research topic what you are taking, it should be completed within this 2 weeks. The nurse might be interested in studying sibling relationships among quadruplets, but getting quadruplets is going to be a long process, so that entire life maybe the project will be continuing. So you have to make sure whether what is the time period will for you, and how your research problem, how much time the research problem will take. So the next one is cost. So money also a important vital role, plays a vital role in research projects. So you should know how much is your budget for your research and how much is the institution allotted grant for your research work, so that you can plan your research accordingly. So whenever you select a problem, make sure the availability of resources, the equipment, supplies and the cost of all these things will be according to the budget what you planned for. So before making any final decision on conducting a study, you have to check your rough budget, so that make sure whether it should not become more expensive. The next one is administrative support. So without the support of administration from your institution, it is very difficult to complete your research work so peacefully. So many research projects require administrative support, so you need consent from the working authority or from the institution. So the nurse researcher may find it very difficult to conduct research independently. So financial as well as psychological support is needed from the administrative side. So you have to make sure whether your administration will allow you to do this kind of research work or not. The next one is support from the peer group. So this is very important. You should get help from your friends, from your fellow workers, so that you can do the research with the support of them. So for example, when you do a research and you have to among nurses, you have to check whether the nurses will be willingly participating in the research or not. So you have to check their interest in the research so that it will be of helpful in your research. The next feasibility is availability of subjects. This we have discussed in the feasibility itself, like how much number of availabilities of the subjects is very important in the research, because they are the one participating in the research and we have to look for their availability criteria. Like for example, as I said, like quadruplets, it's very difficult to find those number of subjects in one area. There will be very less candidates we may have, or sometimes some of the studies the subjects may not be willing to participate, or they will be participating in some other study. In that case also the availability of subjects becomes less. So you have to see the availability of subjects. According to that we have to plan our research problem statement. So for example, if you are selecting sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, the patients numbers will be very less in the specified area where we are going to do research. So you have to make sure the availability of subjects before we do the research problem. The next one is researcher's competency. So the researcher competency is very, very important, because you have to be expert. If you are a novice category, then you have to go and select something very simple, which there is not much complications. So if you are a beginner level, then you have to select the topics according to the level of the competency we have. If you are expert, then you can go for a little challenging one. So even though we are under expert guidance, we will be put under the guide, of course our competency level plays a very vital role in the research. The next one is ethical consideration. It is not necessary that everyone will permit all the research, so you have to make sure that the participation of the subjects and their consent, which is very, very important. Some sensitive topics, sometimes it is difficult for the difficult to get the ethical consideration. So some institution, they may not allow you to do some kind of researches. So you have to make sure when you do a research whether this ethical committee will approve those researches or not, or the consent from participation we will get or not. So all those things, areas we should look for before starting a research. So the feasibility under the criteria includes all these things like time, cost, support from the administration and the peer support, availability of the subjects, researcher competency, ethical consideration. So all these things comes under feasibility. So we have discussing about the criteria, and we have discussed what it should be related to the significance or significant to your nursing profession. It should be a original one, and it should attain all these feasibilities. And then the next criteria is solvable or researchable. You have to select a topic or a research problem which is solvable. So there are a lot of problems exist in the universe which are not solvable. For an example, the existence of God in the universe, it is not a solvable research. So if you take this as your problem statement, the end output will be very difficult. So you cannot solve this kind of issues. So there are a lot of things in our universe where the solution to that answer will not be possible. So those kind of research you are not supposed to select. Problem selected is considered good only if it is solvable, so that the chance of insolvability of problem should be minimized. So you have to see whether it is solvable or researchable one. The next one is current. This is very important because current issues always makes your research problem best one. So a good research problem must be based on the current problems and needs of a profession, so that the results generated will be of more benefit. So you have to see whether the current issues, if you solve it, you bring it out a solution to that current problem, then it is going to be a important utilization in your nursing profession. So make sure that there is something what is happening now is to be included in your research problem. Interesting. Of course, the interest of the researcher plays a vital role while doing the research. So while selecting the research problem, it is considered that it is of researcher's interest. Field of interest from the researcher is very important, so that it makes the researcher happy, and it will give a motivation to complete the research. So these are all the criteria what we have to look for when you select a research problem. So the criteria includes significant to nursing profession, it should be a original one, it should be feasible under all those points what we discussed, and it is solvable research, it is according to the interest of the researcher, and it should be a current problem. So all these criteria you should see before writing a research problem statement. So the next thing is how to formulate a research problem. So where you are planning to write a research problem, so how you will formulate a research problem. So there are few steps in formulating a research problem. The first one is selection of the area. So usually you should select first what area you are going to do research. For example, it can be like whether what department you are not still decided on, maybe a community topics, or it may be a pediatric or psychiatric, and in that, or what disease you are planning to select. So this has to be selected first. You may do a research under education, nursing education or nursing administration, or you are planning to do clinical practice research. So you have to select the area where you are going to do the research according to all the experience and the literature review search. You will be looking for a specific area. So selection of area is the first step in formulating the research problem. For example, a researcher gets an idea to conduct a study on diabetes mellitus. So you have to select on specific area first, general area first, and then you have to do review of literature and study theories related to that topic. So for example, in my slide I told the researcher is interested to do diabetes mellitus. So in the next step what you have to do is you have to do literature review on this topic, that is diabetes mellitus, and see how many researches have been conducted, how they have conducted, what all the area they have focused in the recent years. So all these things you have to look in the literature review and theories. So after getting a broad idea, he or she needs to review the nursing literature and theories. So the researcher should plan like what all the areas they have been done the research and where it is needed. All these recommendations has to be studied to see which area it is your application is needed. The next is delimiting the research topic. So after all this review, you will come to know that, oh, this is the place where I need a research. So that is called delimiting the research. That is nothing but narrowing down a broader area to a specific area. So in this step, the researcher proceeds from a general area of interest to more specific topic of research to conduct a study. So in my initial example, I said that researcher wants to conduct a study on diabetes mellitus, but in the later stage, after all the literature review, he makes this topic as specific, like to assess knowledge of food care among diabetic patients. Okay, so this is called delimiting the research topic. The next one is evaluating the research problem. Once your topic is delimited or specified, then you have to check all the criteria what we have discussed before. Is it applicable for your research problem? So once the researcher is clear about the specific research problem, the next step is to carefully examine his research problem for significance, researchability, feasibility. Feasibility, as I said, it includes time, cost, resources, subjects availability, administrative and peer support, ethical consideration. So all these things you should check with your research problem. This is called evaluating the research problem. So after evaluating, you will write it as a final statement. That is formulating a final statement. This is nothing but writing as a statement. It is written in declarative or interrogative format. So what you have to do is, first, as we discussed, first step in formulation of research problem is selecting a broader area of research, and then you will do lot of literature review and read theories, and you will delimit the research topic. That is, you make it more specific, you make it like narrow down your broader area to a specific topic, and then you will evaluate that research problem with all the criteria what we discussed, like significance, researchability, whether it is current or it is feasible. Everything you have to check, and then you will write it as a statement. So while writing the research problem statement, there are two types of statements. One is declarative and the other one is interrogative. So declarative statements are nothing but a sentence formation, where here I have given the example for this format. It is in sentence form: a descriptive study on prevalence of bed sores among unconscious patients admitted in intensive care unit. So if you write it like a statement like this, we say it as declarative format. So what is interrogative format is if you write the same research problem as a question format. So if you write it like a research question, then we say it as an interrogative format. The example of this interrogative format is: what is the influence of level of hemoglobin on pin site infection among patients with external skeletal fixators admitted in orthopedic wards? So if you put it under a question form, we say it as interrogative format. So here I have given a very simple one: what is the effect of ginger on morning sickness of pregnant women in selected urban communities? So what is the effect? So it is an interrogative format. If you write to study the effectiveness of ginger on morning sickness of pregnant women, then it is a declarative format. So in our research in nursing profession, most of the research problem have been written in declarative format. So make sure that you write all the statements or research problem in this declarative format. Okay, so we have seen what is research problem, the definition, sources, criteria, and how to formulate a research problem statement. Yes, and in our next class we will discuss about the objectives, or how to write the objectives. Thank you. See you with the next video.